Hello everyone. Here is the third part of the Manhwa recap about Hell. Be sure to like and subscribe, then the fourth part will be released. Well, if you haven't seen the first two, then there are links in the description or in the comments. Enjoy your viewing. Kim Seung-won. I pointed my finger at my former friend. Beat that bastard up with me. Everyone seemed shocked by such a request, but the shock was quickly replaced by satisfied expressions. Only Kim Seung-won stood in complete shock. He couldn't believe that I could ask for just that. I'll give you as much money as you want. With these words, I took out bundles of money from my jacket and added. But beat up Kim Seung-won, who was my friend and betrayed me. It seemed that the mood of the people in the room had changed rapidly. The eyes were directed at my former friend who was standing in the corner of the restroom. Wait. With these words, it seemed that he even began to back away and pitifully stretched out his hand begging for mercy. The trap was closed. Hunting time. Holding in his hand a wad of money I had recently thrown on the floor, the green-haired leader of the gang was laughing happily. Ha ha ha, and this jerk is interesting. Putting a wad of money in his pocket, he continued. So you really were friends? And you kept pretending you didn't. Grinning maliciously and zipping up the pocket of his jacket, the guy pressed my friend closer and closer to the exit of the room. So don't hate me too much. It's his own fault that he lied to us. Consider it a refund or karma, whatever you want. After these words, a large beefy guy began to crack his knuckles and knead his fists. A moment later, my friend was grabbed from behind. Surrounded by his former comrades, he felt panic. He clearly didn't know what to do, and the best thing he came up with was to try to break out of the grip. Don't touch me. With a loud hysterical cry, he still escaped. Now he was standing next to me, screaming hysterically. What the fuck are you talking about? I told you it wasn't like that. Why don't you believe me, but believe this idiot? Watching all this, I was not thrilled. It seemed even the guy's former comrades were a little shocked by the hysteria. Then the green-haired guy said. Friends just want to make some money. Why are you balking, idiot? I've seen that expression on his face. The expression of despair on my friend's face. He realized he had just been betrayed. Then he turned on me and was practically crying, gritting his teeth in anger. Hey, why the hell are you dragging me into this whole motherfucker? How can you do this to a friend? His face was clearly begging for mercy. However, I only replied with a grin. Ha. A friend? After you made me like this? Although not. That's right, we're friends. And if so, then in a friendly way, try everything that I experienced on my own skin. At that moment, my face was just burning with pleasure. My already thin face, with that smile, looked just unbearably sinister. Experience a life as shitty as I've experienced. That bastard. My friend was about to hit me and even swung his hand. When suddenly one of his comrades grabbed him by the jacket and dragged him away. With a slight movement of his hand, he threw it to the other end of the toilet. And again the leader of the gang said. We've already been paid, so beating you first is the right thing from the point of view of trade morality. Don't you think so? Then turning to me he asked. How many times to delete it? We received 5 million won in advance. If you take 500,000 for each blow, then it comes out 10 blows, okay? Without thinking for a second, I agreed. And then I took a pose in which I would be pleased to watch my friend who betrayed me being betrayed by his comrades. Immediately after my consent, the foot of one of the guys flew into my friend's face. The first blow was excellent. One time. The leader spoke loudly. Then they started kicking my friend. The whole room was filled with the sounds of blows and the groans of the one who received them. So this is what beating looks and sounds like from the outside. It's more depressing than I thought. When I was beaten, the sounds were louder. My face expressed nothing. Boring. I said loudly. I don't understand at all why you bastards are doing this. Then I got up and took the key out of my pocket. A key whose eyes were already burning bright red. Bahamurk, who had been watching this theatrical scene all this time, burst out laughing joyfully. And then thoughtfully laid his head on the brush. Ho ho. Cause discord within the gang so that they commit the sin of betrayal. The sin of a woman of a man named stepmother had a different taste, really this one. While my mentor demon was watching, I had already directed the key at the sinners. And then he shouted loudly in their direction. Hey, you human trash. In an instant, they all turned to me. I was standing with the key in my hand pointing in their direction and smiling. It seems to have hurt you after all. You all turned around at once. As if forgetting about our agreement, they clenched their fists in anger and headed in my direction. Idiot M, what did you just say? Apparently they hoped that I would be scared. But I just laughed. I'm not scared of the bastards. Keep doing this, but already in hell. With these words, the whole room seemed to be distorted, and after a moment it was filled with a bright red color. Energy began to be released from my ki. It seemed that there was no trace of the bandits who threatened me. Their angry faces were replaced by fearful ones. As if I didn't notice it, I turned the key. A gate appeared out of nowhere. This was the end for these pathetic bandits. As before, the gate caught fire with flames, and tentacles like snakes were released from the gate. They grabbed 3 men who beat up my friend recently. All this happened in just a second. The leader of the gang did not give up until the last. He tried to grab the edge of the door and shouted hysterically, "What the hell is this? Who are you anyway?" And I just went closer to the door and helped his hand to break off the door. And then I added, "You've often heard that you're called a demon." Saying this, I remembered all the mockery. All the beatings and bullying that I went through because of him. And then, tearing off the last finger holding him in this world, I added, "So go to the right place for you, trash." After that, the leader of the gang went after his bandits. Straight to hell. And then the doors slammed shut. I stood there as if nothing had happened. No emotions on his face, only inner satisfaction. But my ex-friend clearly didn't understand what was going on. He was shaking with fear like a girl. I turned and looked at him. My boss's voice came from the booth. There was one left. I began to slowly approach my pathetic and insignificant friend who was lying on the floor and shaking. Don't you wonder what it was? My friend opened his eyes a little. I realized that he was interested. It sounds unrealistic, but I can open the gates to hell. Because some time ago, I got a key that can do it. While saying this, I shook the key with a bright red skull right in front of my former friend's face. Still panicking from fear, he only asked convulsively, "Won't you touch me?" Now that my once good friend was lying in front of me in such a state, I even felt sorry for him. Memories from childhood immediately began to pop up before my eyes, where we had a great time together. He even stayed at my place for the night once. I don't know what you'll think of me now, but I still think of you as a friend. Therefore, we will finish everything with a few strokes. I'm not sorry that everything turned out this way. It seemed my friend hesitated. However, when he quickly came to himself, he realized that he was not able to refuse me. I don't know if you'll believe it. I also did it simply because I was afraid of them. Well and good. Then from now on, let's try to restore our friendly relations. While saying this, I got up and went straight to the exit. And then something flashed next to my pocket. Something golden fell out of it. My friend, who was following me with his eyes, of course noticed this. Only for a moment he froze, not understanding what to do. And then my words rang in his head. It sounds unreal, but I can open the gates to hell. Because some time ago, I received a key that can do this. The second my friend remembered this, he jumped in the hope of grabbing the key. And he really caught it, and then shouted loudly, "Bastard. Don't try to pick my soul with your pretentious speeches. Now I have the key." However, before he could even finish the sentence, he looked at his trophy. It was an ordinary locker key. And then he turned around and saw me. What I dropped was my locker key. I was standing with the second key in my hand, which was burning bright red. My friend understood everything. "Wait, don't do this. So you have no desire to cope at all, what a pity." After that, loud screams were heard from the toilet and a red color flashed. Bahamurk stood and applauded me. "Do you always bring your tricks to the end?" It was a superbly thought out, smart and funny scam man. With a bit of sadness on my face, I said. The latter was not a trick. It was an exam. But I really wanted to give him a chance. But those who betrayed me are complete garbage. Bahamurk just scratched the forehead of his skull. Well, garbage or not, there are no classes in hell. Everyone suffers equally. Putting his arm around my shoulder, my boss added. Well, slowly you become free. Hurry up and make hell noisier, man. After all that was done, I decided to wash. Without exhaling loudly, I looked at myself in the mirror. A huge black eye was showing off under my left eye. Looking at this scene, the demon said. The longer I've known you, the more new things I discover about you. When you sent that woman you called stepmother to hell, there was only one revenge visible in you. But when you sent these classmates, I noticed emotions similar to self-hatred. I don't particularly like this ambiguity. After all, someone may be offended by the fact that you will be called a sweet potato. Closing the water in the tap, I calmly answered. I've never been sentimental. Always thought about the future plan. I just feel a little uncomfortable. Calmly talking about it, I wiped my hands. It's not because I feel sorry for them. Or else I feel guilty. No. All my life I couldn't cope with the bastards who took half a day to clean up. I was pathetic, my whole existence was ruined. Then I calmly left the toilet, leaving the demon himself with his mouth open. He clearly hadn't expected such an answer. But he followed me anyway. I spent a normal day at school as if nothing had happened. In the evening, sitting in my apartment, I waited patiently. Bahamurk stuck his head right through the glass and watched the street. Suddenly he said, "Oh, it's coming, it's coming. That man, your father, is already on his way up." While saying this, he moved directly to me, pointing his finger at the window. He had already entered the house. I just sat on the couch and thought. But my demon was impatient. "Well, have you already prepared a trick? What methods are you using this time? After all, you don't have a trusted relationship with him or with your peers. Although where will they come from if you've been sitting in a room for 6 months, living your devastated life? The money trick won't work this time. After all, the source of your money is your father." Sitting on the sofa with my head bowed, I calmly said, "I am not going to use any tricks. And I know better than anyone that they won't work for us." There was a noise in the corridor, obviously it was my father who came. But the demon still wouldn't let up. "Tell me, a little man. Or has our friendship not reached that level yet?" My father. He has a small insurance company. And the coefficient of protection of insurance payments of this company is incredibly high. Or explain it even easier to make it clear. Footsteps sounded in the corridor. The job of this person is to beat on the back of those who paid the insurance money. Entering the room, my father asked loudly, "Who are you talking to?" Throwing his suitcase on the sofa, he continued. At first he locked himself in his room and played with toys. Has it really reached schizophrenia yet? Just like his mother, just as weak. Calmly taking the already activated key out of my pocket, I looked at my boss. "I told you. I'm not going to use tricks. This man today, as always, betrayed people." The key that I was holding right in front of my face was already activated. The eyes of the skull burned bright scarlet. Suddenly, a scream rang out from behind the demon. "Fucking little bastard. What did you dare to say about your father just now?" My father was already swinging to hit me, but by putting the key on his straight arm, I beat him to it. The space in the room was distorted. And the father just fell into a stupor. I will continue the dialogue with the demon. "I've been thinking. Why did my father leave my mother? And how can he be so harsh to me, because we have the same blood? I think my father began to bully people at work every day. So betrayal became his habit." Having turned the key, a huge gate appeared out of nowhere. All the same beautiful patterns and people's faces decorated them. Father didn't understand what was going on. "What?" The door, but I didn't pay attention to him. "Good road." I didn't say it out loud. And in a moment the tentacles had already grabbed the father. He tried to resist, but it was useless. "Let go." He was shouting. But I just shook my head. "No. That's where you belong." Then the door slammed shut. After a while, Bahamurk was already sitting on the couch and watching his victim suffer in hell. I was also sitting next to him, but I wasn't looking at the tablet. After a brief glance at me, he asked, "So what? Is your revenge complete?" I picked up the portrait of our once happy family that was standing on the table. "What are you planning to do now? Are you going to punish all the traitors in the world? Or are there still those who betrayed you, whom I do not know about? Let people in on your plans." I just stood there with my face buried in my phone. "Revenge is over." The sounds of dialing came from the phone. "Now it remains only to surrender." I showed the screen of my phone to the demon. The phone and the number 112 were open on it. After a while I was already sitting in the police station. 2 people were recording my testimony into a computer. I was playing the incomprehensible. And 2 employees looked at me suspiciously. My boss was also watching this picture. When suddenly a pictogram appeared in front. And a second later, a lower demon appeared right on top of her. "By the most worthy supreme demon Bahamurk. Lord Lucifer summons you. Please visit him immediately." Satisfied, Bahamurk asked, "Is he calling me because the news has reached him that hell is finished? Well, that's good. After all, it got boring here." With these words, he looked at me and then slowly got up and went to the open portal. The Gothic palace on top of the cliff was flaunted by the light of the red moon. Entering the room, Bahamurk noticed a round table at which all the higher demons were already sitting in the head with Lord Lucifer. As soon as he entered, Lucifer said, "All 12 candidates for the post of the 20th Lord of Hell gathered here. The Lord of all hells, Lucifer, sat on his throne. And the grin never left his face. As soon as Bahamurk entered the room, he noticed all the higher demons that can be compared to me. He looked around at the creatures sitting around the table. Why are they gathered in this place? Because we have never met each other. The supreme ruler of the demons stretched out his hand pointing to an empty seat. To begin with, sit down, Bahamurk. The demon slowly approached his seat, pushing the table aside. He began to speak. Mr. Lucifer, I came later than everyone else. Could you tell me the reason why we were called? Suddenly, the eyes of the supreme demon lit up with a bright purple color. And he said with pressure. Sat down. A huge pentagram formed around the Bahamurk. He couldn't resist the will of the demon lord. A moment later, he was already sitting in his seat. One of the demons sitting next to him laughed. Ha ha. Do you think we also sat here because we wanted to? Everyone is sitting still because Mr. Lucifer said so. This creature bore little resemblance to a demon. He was wearing a tight-fitting suit of dark black with a purple tinge. And so I live in a mask. He continued. We are all lords of the reserve hells. The demon who spoke to me was a higher demon named Gargamoga. A backup hell? Bahamurk asked in perplexity. What does this mean? He said loudly. Lucifer spoke. Yes. Everything is exactly as you heard it. This is the most accurate definition. A few days ago, I summoned each of you higher demons and gave you the right to create hell. After all, in fact, when I gave you the key, I did not say that you would be the sole owner of the new hell. And I never said that I would accept them as official hells. Saying this, the Supreme Lord smiled maliciously. So. The Supreme Demon similar to the Gorgon Medusa began to speak. It was the Supreme Demoness Liaison. Master, do you mean to say that each of the 12 higher demons had their own hell created? Lucifer pointedly snapped his fingers. Bingo. Tell an interesting fact? None of you created hell on your own. And you've all used people you've always looked down on for that. Bahamurk thought about it. I thought they were dumber than me, but they're not. It is possible to ask for a person's help, usually the case. Because so far the best hell is the hell of the unbelievers, created by a man named Dante. Suddenly one of the demons, whose head looked like a huge eye, was strangled. His eye began to run in all directions. He obviously didn't have a mouth. But he was obviously asking something. The supreme demon Sadius. That was his name. To which Lord Lucifer hastily replied. Come on, Sadius. I ask what I suddenly want to say? In short, only one hell made by the best person of all the ones you have chosen will become official. The rest will be destroyed. In a second, the atmosphere in the hall instantly became hostile. All the demons understood that from now on they are opponents. Lucifer continued. Everything is right. I am Lucifer, I want to see the bloody battles of the creators of hell. Question room number 1. I was sitting in the room with my head down. To confuse the investigation, I came to the police station myself and reported my father and stepmother missing. But the problem turned out to be much bigger than I thought. There was also a report about the disappearance of a group of students. 6 people have been missing for a day in the area. And the missing had only one thing in common. And that's me. So why did they take it seriously from the very beginning? Why was I able to win this game in just 2 days? Everything is simple. Let be the only common variable between all the missing. There's no way they can catch me. It's just a coincidence, nothing more. There is no one who has seen me open the doors to hell. No bodies or weapons were found. None of the 3 elements of murder. Body. Witness. Guns. None of this. There is something in common with the missing, but the law is soft enough not to put a person behind bars, having only such a basis. And let me be in the interrogation room right now. I'll be released soon. Thinking about all this, I myself did not notice how my smile stretched on my face. Meanwhile, right up to the door of the interrogation room. The 2 detectives were talking to each other. No matter how much I search and put pressure on him, nothing comes out. Sunbae? He doesn't look like some kind of professional killer. But neither the bodies, nor the tools, nor the witnesses, he could not keep track of all this. What should we do? The second detective stood and thought. It was a red-haired guy a little older than me. You ask? We need to substitute it and close it. Well, or let go. It was Detective Park Sang-sik. The second group is the operational department. However, before we do this, I want to talk to him once. Turn off the microphone. This is not even an interrogation, but an investigation. A young detective came into my room and closed the door. I'm sorry that your parents are missing and you have to go through all this. You do understand that we are not doing this because we want to. He was looking right at me. His gaze was quite confident. I need to at least make sure you're innocent. I was calmly sitting on a chair and without looking up I said. I didn't kill. When suddenly the detective said something I didn't expect to hear. Because you sent them all to hell. At that very moment, I panicked. I looked directly at the detective and noticed how he was holding the keys to hell right in front of him. This key didn't look like mine. But still they had something in common. The guy asked with a slight smile. Surprised? You're not the only one who created your own hell. I was sitting with my eyes wide open. How is this possible? Bahamurk deceived me? Don't be surprised so much. I've been watching you, but I didn't think you'd crack up so soon. The guy calmly sat down opposite. Some kind of mess was going on in my head. Damn. This fact stunned me so much that I forgot to keep in character. A detective's keen sense? Or did he understand everything from the very beginning? I can't read it. After everyone else left, the one who has known everything for a long time came. The guy got up from his seat and sat on the table right next to me. It seemed my gaze was panicked. And his cold as ice. If that's what happened, you need to send him to hell and erase the traces. But how to make this one commit the sin of betrayal? I gripped the keys tightly in my pocket. Suddenly, a portal appeared to my right. And my mentor, the supreme demon, came out of it. And at the same second, a portal appeared to my left, unlike my bright fiery one. The second portal was purple in color and looked as if someone had broken the space like glass. A creature similar to a human came out of the second portal, but the fact that he came out of the portal immediately made it clear to me that it was also a demon. When suddenly he spoke. We meet again, Bahamurk. And what my demon replied. Manga. What a coincidence, it seems our people already know each other. It's good. The purple demon replied. But it's worth getting rid of this hostility. Especially your man with glasses. He looked straight at me and said. He was just thinking about opening the gate. Bahamurk spoke to me. Leave the hostility, man. Because the game hasn't started yet. What are you talking about? Are there other creators besides me? What game? Everything is right. Besides you and the other demon in front of you, there are others who have also entrusted the creation of their hell to a certain person. And soon the deadly game will begin. By the choice of one of the lords of hell out of 12.